the ball. I'm fine. I'm okay. Ow, man. Wake up, Smithy. Holy hell, son, you're about as useful as a flavored lollipop. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
What?
Any other questions?
What's up, guys? It's your boy Benny. They call it the presidential race for a reason. It feels like a marathon, the last mile right now, especially when it comes to the Veep stakes for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a man who created The Apprentice and who loves, I think, a build-up to a final selection at the end of a season. And here we are. We are now officially in Donald Trump selecting his VP season. We have heard from the campaign, and we've reached out ourselves. We don't trust the Washington Post, obviously. We don't trust Axios. We have articles from all across the media that we're going to talk about today, and we're going to listen to what Donald Trump just said on the radio seconds ago. We don't trust anybody other than Trump and the Trump campaign, and what they tell us is that Donald Trump obviously has kept this choice very close to the chest for himself. He's the only person who's going to make the choice. And more importantly, Joe Biden's like self-immolating right now. And it's become incredibly humiliating to be Joe Biden right now. And that news cycle is brutal and blistering. And so if Trump picks his VP, it's going to change the news cycle. And so you gotta let Joe burn for a while. And so what was going to be a vice presidential selection in and around the debate, suddenly all the calculus changed, and maybe the vice president will change, or the selection Trump is going to make, given if Joe runs or Kamala runs, we'll see. So what does the Washington Post say? That's what we've heard from the Trump campaign. Trump running mate decisioneers, Vance and Rubio at centers of talks. The campaign is eyeing an announcement on July 15th. Internal talks have focused heavily on the senators. It's a very cool photo of Donald Trump. This is like rad photo of Donald Trump. Former President Donald Trump's campaign is aiming at announcing a running mate July 15th, the first day of the Republican convention. That would be Monday, according to people familiar with the situation. They have largely centered on two finalists, Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance. And North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum is also in the mix, and Trump, who has a habit of changing his mind, privately discussing other names, but we don't like Doug Burgum. I don't like Doug Burgum. The more I learn about Doug Burgum, the more I don't like him. So let's focus on Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance. So good news for J.D. Vance in this selection. Don Jr. to speak ahead of Trump's VP nominee at RNC. Don Jr. is very close friends with J.D. Vance. He's campaigned for him, and members of their teams are very, very close. They're strong allies together, Don Jr. and J.D. Vance. Donald Trump is scheduled to speak right before his father's vice presidential pick at the RNC convention. This is a good sign for J.D. Vance. Bad sign for Marco Rubio or Doug Burgum. Don Jr. has been an early and vocal booster of Vance. At the convention, speaking order is the clearest indication yet that the 39-year-old senator could have an inside track to be named the nominee. So this is obviously something that is making headlines across the internet. Something also that made headlines across the internet was Donald Trump this week with Marco Rubio live at Doral. Marco Rubio spoke at the campaign rally at Doral, and then Donald Trump said, well, all of the media is here to watch me pick you as my VP, Marco.
Probably think I'm going to be announcing that Marco is going to be vice president. I don't know. Because that's a lot of press. That's a lot of press.
Donald Trump would go on to say that Marco Rubio may or may not be in the Senate to pass some of his premier legislation. Okay, well, now let's fast forward to today and where we are right now. Donald Trump just did a interview on radio where he was asked and pressed quite a bit about when he's going to announce his vice president and who his vice president is going to be. Here's what the president had to say.
President, you've done a good job, I think, of creating a lot of different drama associated with who the vice president is going to be. Can you tell us, have you made up your mind on your pick yet? And second part of that, have you decided on how the vice president is going to be announced?
I'd love to do it during the convention,
You know, the Republican convention's a big deal. And in the old days, they used to do it that way. Now technology makes it more difficult. I say, no, it's supposed to make it easier. It makes it actually more difficult, if you can believe it. But I'd love to do it during the convention, which would be, you know, or just slightly before the convention, like Monday. Love to do it on Tuesday or Wednesday, actually. But for a lot of complex reasons that you people understand, you pretty much don't do that. And I have some really, really good candidates, and you know, maybe leaning one way, and that changes sometimes. You know, all of a sudden you see something that you like or you don't like, and you lean a little bit differently. But we have some very good. We have a very good bench. We have a very good bench.
Okay, so Donald Trump saying that he wants to do it at the convention. How would he do it?
Do you announce it? Do you call up everybody? Like, how many finalists would you say you have right now? And is it like a job offer? Do you call them up? Do you bring them in person? Have you thought about how you would convey that offer?
It's like a highly sophisticated version of The Apprentice.
Yeah.
Okay, if you think about it. And they're great people. They're really good. I got to know them very well. I'd say 4 people, you know, 4 or 5 people, but I got to know them very well. Some dropped out over the course of, they didn't drop, you know, there were reasons why they wouldn't have done as well.
So it's still open, though, sir. You're telling us that it's not necessarily a done deal in your mind. Is that right? You're still thinking it over.
I'm going into great detail. But more ultimately, it's more of an instinct. You know, you develop an instinct, but I like to know all the facts before the instinct kicks in. The people are fantastic. Like, I watched Tim Scott on television yesterday. He was fierce and great. He was great. I watched Marco over the weekend on television. He was incredible. JD's been great. You have a man named Burgum, who's a fantastic governor in North Dakota. And, you know, it's a state that's very, very prosperous, very successful. And he's done a good job there. You have some terrific people.
So Donald Trump there mentions some of the big-time names that we've heard of. Doug Burgum, obviously, Marco Rubio, Tim Scott, and J.D. Vance. Also, Ben Carson has been in the mix. We know for a fact that Ben Carson's been vetted. Donald Trump also followed back Ben Carson, is the only person that he follows on Truth Social. So a sleuth noticed this. So Donald Trump follows his son, Donald Trump Jr., and now Ben Carson. Is that a sign? Don't know. We do know this, that Donald Trump is having events already scheduled with the vice presidential nominee. So it has to happen next week, because the vice president is speaking at the convention and because they're scheduling events. They're already promoted. People are buying tickets, right? They're buying tickets. They've already promoted it. So it has to happen either this weekend or next week. And as Donald Trump just said, he wants to do it at the convention, so presumably on Monday. Karl Rove endorses Doug Burgum for vice president. Nope. Yeah, no way. Doug Burgum's endorsed a bunch of never-Trumpers. 2 of the worst never-Trump rhinos, Karl Rove and Mark Thiessen, were just on Fox smearing J.D. Vance. Rove endorsed Burgum, which tells you everything you need to know. It's clear that J.D. is the pick the swamp fears the most, which means he's the VP we need. J.D. Vance skyrocketing in the betting markets here as Trump's potential VP pick. You can see J.D. Vance definitely doing great, and in the smart money is behind J.D. Vance, who has sort of flipped the tables. Marco Rubio trailing far behind here in the money markets for J.D. for who will be the vice presidential nominee. Ladies and gentlemen, J.D. Vance doing an excellent job explaining Trump's positions and the failures of the Biden administration this weekend.
That's argument here is so inconsistent with reality. Russia took territory under the Bush administration. It took territory under the Obama administration. It took territory under the Biden administration. It took 0 territory under the Trump administration because Vladimir Putin actually respected Donald Trump, and he hasn't respected any of these other clowns. That's the most important thing when it comes to to Putin's aggression in Europe, and the Democrats' arguments are absurd. Now, on the question of NATO, what Trump has said very clearly is that Europe has to step up. America cannot be the policeman of the world. We want NATO to be a strong alliance. We don't want NATO countries to be welfare clients of the United States. If Vladimir Putin is a significant threat to Europe, then the Germans have to step up. The French have to step up. They need to do more for their own security. And I think that argument actually lands not just with a lot of Americans, but with a lot of Europeans. They are not our clients. We want NATO to be a strong alliance, but for that to be the case, the Europeans have got to step up.
Just a smart dude, just sharp as a tack, friend of the show, been on the program a number of times. JD Vance, we're big fans of. They say it's JD Vance or Rubio. Both of them have been on the show. We'll see. I mean, we're out of time, right? We're out of time. So it's got to happen in the next 72 hours. It's exciting, right? It's exciting. We've been talking about this for the better part of 6 months, right? Come on. Ron Swami, come on. Pick Vivek. Blow all of our minds and pick Vivek. Donald Trump saying on Fox News earlier this week that he actually hasn't made his decision up yet. And he's gonna go on his gut. He's gonna go on his instinct. Ladies and gentlemen, the president sends us off. The best we can do is play you what Donald Trump is saying about this election. Here we go.
And I want to ask you about your VP choice. How soon do you think you'll be making that choice, number one? Number two, we keep reading that there is a short list, and on the short list, we hear names like Senator Rubio, Senator Tim Scott, Senator J.D. Vance, Governor Burgum. Are those reports accurate? Are there other people maybe people aren't paying attention to? And when do you think you'll announce that?
Well, we started off with a lot of people. We have a lot of good people. As they call it, we have a great bench in the Republican Party. The names that you mentioned, absolutely, they're under consideration. And I haven't made final decision, but I have some ideas as to where we're going. And a little bit, we wanted to see what they're doing, to be honest, because, it might make a difference. I don't know. I'm not sure that it would. But there are those that say Trump's waiting until he finds out what's going to happen with crooked Joe Biden. And we'll see what happens with Biden. But, I think probably within the next week and a half, probably sometime. I'd love to do it during the convention. My people say that's a little complicated. In the old days, they would announce the vice president during the convention. Today, with modern-day technology, you can't do things that you could have done 50 years ago very easily. But probably a little before the convention, but not much. It could even be during the convention that we'd do it. I'd love to do it during the convention. I think it would be a very interesting build-up and important for the convention. It would make it even more exciting. It's going to be amazing in Milwaukee.
If you announced it right now on this show, I think it would make a lot of news. I'm just saying.
Well, if I did it, I'd love to do it with you. But we'll be announcing soon, and I think everybody's going to be very, very happy. The choice will be very, very good. It's going to be a great vice president, meaning a person that can do a fantastic job as president, because you always have to think of that first. And then second, somebody that helps you get elected. And there's nothing wrong with that.